Now it is becoming to the state in the game where the opportunity is arising that you can exploit the darkness in a very similar way as the darkness has exploited the light. Because you are now at a place where you are really beginning to understand yourself and your relationship with the light, and also understanding the darkness and the tactics it uses as you go through your awakenings, your reality awakening especially. Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese general, says in his Art of War, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, then your chances of victory are very good. And this is where humanity is at this moment. The question is, how can the darkness be exploited? The answer is very simple. By exploiting Hi, it's Muzz iEvolv from iEvolv.com. Thank you very much for being here again this week. I really appreciate it. Have you read this book yet? It's time that you do. Obviously, it's beneficial to me if you purchase this book, but more importantly, the ideas in here really can have a profound effect on transforming the human experience, particularly at this time. It's in the paperback, audio, and ebook, link below this video. Everything that I'm doing to get this book ready is progressing nicely. I will keep you updated. Not ready yet, but it will be soon. If you'd like to support what I do here, then I've created a membership site where you get access to the transcripts, audios, and videos of every channel I've done in the past and every channel I would do in the future. And the most expensive of the 3 membership levels is less than $2 per day. Link below this video. If you would like to do a private channeling with me, then you can see below this video is a link going to an inquiry form. If you fill out the inquiry, then my system will send you more information. Then you can read that information and decide if you want to proceed or not. Doing the inquiry form doesn't commit you to anything. And on to today's topic. It is how humanity wins by exploiting the darkness. Greetings and thank you for the statement. How humanity wins by exploiting the darkness. Given what is occurring right now in the human experience, this is a very pertinent topic. Let us begin in this way. The darkness has become powerful by exploiting the light, because in a relative sense, the light is naive in the way that it has presented in the earth human experience, because you were born into creation, your species, without the 3 fundamental understandings: that you are connected to the One, that you are connected to each other, and that you are the light and nothing but the light. And so in the absence of these 3 fundamental understandings, there is no foundational basis of your understanding of the light which gives you strength. And so it is a very naive expression of the light that has been the typical way for your species. Meaning that without this foundation, there is a lot of groping around, reaching here, there, and everywhere, trying to understand what it means to be either the light or the darkness. And because you are always reaching for something new, yet without a stable footing, then it is very easy to tip you off balance, or it is very easy to get you to believe in something which isn't true, or get you to act in a way which doesn't serve you. Because without this foundational basis, there is no substance to the values. The values are esoteric, they are intellectual, and it can be argued or it can be dismissed through a sophisticated rationale. Any type of values that you may hold which are arising from the light. Because without this foundational understanding, a very powerful rationale, a very good explanation of something which is alternative or counter to what you feel are your beliefs, can be enough to persuade you. And this effect is the same as saying that humanity's understanding of the light is very naive. And the darkness has exploited this to the maximum extent. And this is why you have a false narrative matrix, which is exactly an exploitation of the naivety of the light in the way that humans have expressed it to this point. Humanity has a tendency to be very gullible, to believe whatever it is told if the source of that information has established itself in some way as reputable, as authoritative, as trustable. However, the darkness is aware of this relationship that humanity has with information, and so they have established themselves in this authoritative, trustworthy position, and then feeding absolute lies and mistruths and misdirection to the human species, and have marched you to the place where you find yourself now. So your naivety has been totally exploited, and the naivety of the light is still something which they use to march their agenda forward. However, it is becoming more difficult because humanity is becoming less naive in its expression and understanding of the light, because all of you are starting now to have a visceral, intuitive understanding that you are connected to each other, that you are connected to your Creator, that you are, in fact, beings of the light and not the darkness. And so this foundation is beginning to take shape. And now you are much more steadfast in your values. Especially this has been made so because the darkness has become so verbose, has become so grandiose, has become so in your face with its ideas and its values and its principles, that it is offering a very profound contrast between the lightness and the darkness, so that you now can have a growing understanding of the light by proxy of your growing understanding of the darkness and feeling an incongruence with it. So now it is becoming to the state in the game where the opportunity is arising that you can exploit the darkness in a very similar way as the darkness has exploited the light. Because you are now at a place where you are really beginning to understand yourself and your relationship with the light, and also understanding the darkness and the tactics it uses as you go through your awakenings, your reality awakening especially. Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese general, says in his Art of War, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, then your chances of victory are very good. And this is where humanity is at this moment. So, the question is, how can the darkness be exploited? The answer is very simple: by exploiting its tendency for chaos. The light is an energy of coherence, of order, of assembling in an organic way, which makes possible the objectives of the one in the most effective and natural way. Whereas the darkness is an energy of chaos, and it uses order not organically, but through force, but through constraint and constriction, and trying to shape something forcefully, inorganically, into a particular order. And so it is very vulnerable to chaos. Whereas the light, when it establishes order, it does so through a process of divine chaos. When you look at the way that nature responds to the differing environmental conditions, it would appear that nature is very chaotic, that it doesn't particularly have an order. And yet, when you look closer with a more enlightened vision, you can see that indeed there is a lot of order which has arisen from what appears to be chaos. The light always finds a way, and the way that it finds the way is through being chaotic. And through this chaotic nature, it is testing many different ways, many possible avenues or pathways or journeys to arrive at its ultimate objective, which is to blossom and to bloom and to grow and to thrive. When you see, as you walk down the road, there will be a crack in the cement, and through this crack there is grass, and perhaps even there is a flower. This is the nature finding a way. It is the light finding a way. And yet what you don't see is beneath that concrete. Nature is going in all different directions, trying all different modes and ideas to discover what is the way that we breach through this barrier and break through to find our way. It is from the chaos that this beautiful, magnificent order of living being has erupted from the crack in the cement. But although the darkness has a tendency towards chaos, and it does use chaos as much as it possibly can, ultimately chaos is its weakness. Chaos will be its fail point. And this can be exploited if you act chaotically in an orderly way, meaning that humanity decides to be chaotic but with a specific objective in mind. And this is absolutely relevant at this exact moment, because it is now becoming clear that the Western Hemisphere is strategizing to reintroduce mask mandates, to reintroduce the pandemic restrictions and mandates. And it is because when the darkness ultimately arrives at its endpoint, it is going to have a system of order which is completely inorganic. And it will require that it has rules and regulations and restrictions and all means of containment and surveillance and so on, which locks humanity down to such a degree that it forces order on a reluctant species. That despite you wishing to not exist within this very restrictive system of forced order, you have no choice. There is no escape. This is what they are attempting to force on humanity. And you can see, if you're aware, if you're awake, that it is already beginning to take shape with these ideas of the 15-minute cities, which are, in essence, open prisons where you are contained within a pen, like a farm animal or like a convict in a cell. However, if those within that system are chaotic, meaning that they act in a way which is counter to the requirements of that system for that system to function as it is intended, then the system will fail. The controls will become moot. They will not work. And the system itself will collapse. When you look from the historical perspective at what has occurred in the Earth-human field up until this time, systems of absolute restrictive control, which are forced on a population inorganically, ultimately fail. The Soviet Union, the USSR, it eventually crumbled because the chaos within the system became too much for the system itself to keep in a state of order. And eventually, you will witness that this also happens with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, And also, you will witness that this occurs with the New World Order. In fact, the New World Order will not get anywhere near as far down the road of this totalitarian, inorganic state of order that the USSR was able to achieve, which the CCP have been able to achieve, because the dynamics of what is occurring here are now completely different to what they were at the time that those bodies were successfully implemented and were able to control and conform and constrict massive populations under a set of rules and regulations which the people themselves did not want to be part of. Humanity's state of awakening and the ambient energetics at this time mean that humanity, from this place of firm foundational understanding of itself and its values and principles, is going to be very difficult to convince, to persuade, to rationale into complying with this system of order. And eventually, the system itself will fail because it will not be able to contend with the chaos. And the way that you enhance this chaos, which is very intrinsic and the fail point of the darkness, is to refuse to go along. Refuse to put on your mask. Refuse to follow the mandates. Refuse to follow the rules and regulations, which from your place of awakened insight you realize has nothing to do with your well-being, has nothing to do with the safety of your community, but has everything to do with the agenda of depopulation, with the agenda of turning you into a slave so that your progeny into the future are destined to be born into slavery. If you do not want this for yourself, if you do not want that for your future, then be chaotic. Chaotic within the system of control. Be counter to what they are attempting to achieve. And in this way, humanity has the power to exploit this chaotic nature of the darkness so that it fails. The darkness always acts from a place of imbalance because it is a denial of the larger context, which is that you are all part of the ultimate being, which itself is comprised of the light. And so those who wield the darkness, who try and build an empire from the darkness, must separate themselves from the larger phenomenon and form a cell, a closed environment where they are able to keep the light at bay. Yet this is very difficult when you fill the system with beings which are comprised in some way of the light. And so this process of suffering, of turmoil, of disaster, of financial collapse, of disease, which is very much the human experience here, is engineered. It is not the result of just a faulty species expressing itself as some type of virus which is a detriment to the planet, as you have been indoctrinated to believe. It is instead the result of this small minority who have captured control of the cultural pillars and the institutions and the governments of the world, and wielding those, orchestrating global suffering so that you are as filled with darkness as you can possibly be. And therefore, you fit very nicely into their system of darkness. And through your fear, through your desperation, through this manufactured scarcity, you comply with the system. You become a cog within the dark machine. And the chaotic nature of the light of nature finding a way is suppressed, and so you become an automaton within the system. And this is why in China, at the beginning of the Chinese Communist Party's regime, that men and women all had the same short haircut, were all dressed in the same uniform, because it was a suppression of the individualism of human beings, so that there was only the collective, because it is the individualism that is the source of the chaos, because each of you is so unique, is so different, is such a beautiful and rare expression of the light in your own special way, that there is no other being in all of existence that does it exactly the same way that you do. And as long as this element exists within humanity, then there will always be a struggle, no matter how hard the darkness tries to form you into a single, homogeneous collective. The Cabal of Darkness is aware of this phenomenon, and that is why it is their desire that they suppress your individualism, not only through a system of constraints, but also through integration with technology, through altering your genetics and literally changing you into a different species, where you will become, in some sense, a biological robot, where the difference between individuals will almost be non-existent. And you will, in that state, be as close as you can be to a homogeneous collective, while still being an organic being. Yet, from where you are now to that end vision which the Cabal of Darkness have, where you are a race of biological, programmable, automaton robots, is still a large chasm. It is a long way to go, particularly because you are all going through your awakening. The planet is leveling up in its energy. The sun and the entirety of its beingness, the solar system being, is leveling up in its energy. You are now heading towards the galactic center. You're passing through an area of increased energetic ambience. So, you are becoming more human with every passing second. And this means that the measures which the darkness must take to lock you down, to transform you into this state which will give them the vision they desire, is going further and further and further from their grasp, because you are becoming more and more and more human. And when we say this, we are referring to the humanity which we know you are destined to become. You are heading towards that final outcome. And even though we say final outcome, it is not final, because it is an eternal mission. It is a place where you will be on the march for an infinity, and yet not for an infinity. Because when you get to that place where you're in the upper higher realms, time will not exist in the way that you understand it. And so there will be infinity and there will be non-infinity existing together, melded into the same phenomenon. A place where this and that coincide. So, you are a child of that paradigm. You are the yin and you are the yang. And so therefore, you have the power to exist fully in the light, but then also to exploit the darkness while being of the light, so that you are melding this and that, the yin and the yang, into a holistic beingness. Not saying that you contain the darkness, but rather that you understand the darkness, and that you behave in a way through the vehicle of the light, which is like a dagger through the heart of darkness, which disintegrates darkness, which exploits the weakness and ultimate fail point of the darkness. Whereas those that wield the darkness, they are not yin and yang, they are only yin. They are just one side. They are unidimensional. They have cut themselves off from the dimension of yang. And so, all that they do, all that they see, their entire vision is myopic in this way. And so, they cannot comprehend what it is that you and humanity can now achieve, because it is literally beyond the scope of their vision. It is a view of balance, of the holistic being, which is becoming complete in its energy. And because through their philosophical choice, they have made the decision to literally cut themselves off from the divine, so that they are not toxified with the qualities of the divine, which are love, compassion, sympathy, caring, empathy, and so on. Because those qualities, from the perspective of those that have chosen the philosophical pathway of the darkness, is disability. It is dehabilitation. It is a detriment to the achievement of their desires, of their ambitions. And so through necessity, they must be devoid of those qualities, which requires that they shut themselves off from their divine birthright, their energetic supplement, their connection to the divine. And in doing so, they cut themselves off also to the entirety of the dimensions of the truth of the One. And it renders them, in a sense, stupid and naive. So, let us finish in this way. We are eternally hopeful. We know what you can be, and we understand where you are heading. And so, we look upon the contemporary circumstances in your environment, and we understand there is great concern, and there appears to be absolutely warranted to be concerned about what is taking place. The ride has already left the starting point, so there is no getting off. You are locked in for the journey. So what you can do instead is to traverse the place from where you are now to where humanity is heading in a state of maximum wakefulness, in a state of maximum sophistication in your understanding of the light, in your understanding of the darkness, and also to be as much embodied by the values and the principles of the light, because now you are understanding that you are connected to your Creator, that you are connected to each other fellow member of your species, and that you are comprised of the light and nothing but the light. So now you cannot be shaken from this place where you are now steadfast in your understanding of who you are, in your understanding of who the enemy is. And you are now so powerful that the end of the darkness will come and the triumph of the light will eventuate. And your role in that will have been furthered through your understanding and your commitment to share the truth, to help others come to this same place of understanding, and also to demonstrate that you absolutely believe in the principles and the values that you espouse by not complying with a system you know is corrupt, with mandates and requirements you understand are not for the benefit of anyone other than the cabal of darkness and their elitist allies. This is your calling. This is, it could be argued, your duty. And when it has all passed and humanity is living in the golden age, it will reflect upon this time with great honour and reverence for those of you who made the choice to stand up, to unite, to say enough is enough and usher in the new way. Thank you, and we love you. Hi, thank you for watching another channeling session. I'm just doing the final edit of it now, and I've realised I haven't recorded my story. So I've been thinking about what I can say. So there is a story which I can't actually tell you, but I'll give you a sneak preview. When my son was young, like 8, 10 years old, he would say, "Dad, what's the best book you ever read? Dad, what's the funniest joke you ever heard? Dad, what's the best food you ever ate?" And so on and so on. And then eventually one day asked me, "Dad, what's the craziest thing you ever did?" And I was like, "Oh gosh, this is one question I can't answer, son, because I don't want you to emulate what I've done because it is just too crazy." If you heard what it was, you would also think, wow, that's possibly the craziest thing I ever heard. And I said to him, when you're 25 and you have a fully matured adult brain, then I'll tell you. Because hopefully by then you realise it's so insane that you're not going to try to do the same thing to earn your props or whatever that may be. So I can't tell you because that would be cheating if I told you but didn't tell him. So what I'll do instead is, he's about to turn 21, so he's got 4 more years. So if you're still here then, I'll let you know what it was. Okay. Sorry to hold you in suspense as well, but maybe now you can understand how my son has been feeling for the past decade waiting to hear this story. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.